Sewing a teddy Lovey is a wonderful gift you can give a newborn or someone that is young and wants to just cuddle up something super soft. You can use a wide range of fabrics for this pattern, and the pattern is linked below. It's along with our teddy bear pattern. It comes in the same pattern package. So when you print out your pattern pieces, you want to make sure that the 1-inch square is to scale when you print out the pattern, and then cut out the pattern pieces according to the pattern. So make sure to place the grain line parallel to the selvage edge. And if you're not cutting on folded fabric, mirror each pattern piece as you cut.
Stand alone. Show me where the ending goes. Honestly don't.
So next you're going to take the front pieces and match them together right sides facing. Make sure the ears, sides, and notches are all lined up, and pin this together to be secure before you start sewing. You're going to do the same thing for the back and match them together right sides facing. Make sure the ears, sides, and notches are all lined up, and then pin this together and sew both pieces with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. You're going to start where the notch is at the top of the bear head, and then you're going to go all the way to the bottom of the head shape.
I mistook you for a dream. The engine glows, and I guess you always seem to know. Hello, Mona. I push back the series.
For this project, I recommend using pinking shears. These are those scissors that have the zigzags on the blades. This will just make cutting out the pattern pieces easy and make those edges really nice and rounded when you're turning everything right side out. Open the shape and press the seams to one side.
I stand alone. Show me where the ending goes. Honestly don't. I should be the last to know. We're all in this. I stand alone. Show me where the ending goes. Honestly don't. I should be the last to know.
So lay the front piece out in front of you, right side facing up. Lay the back piece on the front piece, right sides together, matching up the ears, cheeks, and the remainder of the head. Pin or clip this in place. Starting at the bottom corner, sew around the perimeter of the bear, going slowly on the edges and curves. Finish at the other bottom corner. To make sure that the curves are really nice and prominent, I recommend lowering your stitch length to about 2 millimeters and use a 1/4 inch seam allowance as you're sewing. This is where you can use your pinking shears to cut around the seam allowance, the excess, and really focus on the corners and the ears to make sure that when you turn it right side out, these shapes are going to be prominent. Turn the bear right side out using the opening at the bottom. Carefully point out the ears and shape of the teddy bear head. Iron well to make the shapes prominent, and take your time here to make sure that the ears are well rounded. Using a water-soluble pin, mark where you want to define the ears. This is shown on your pattern piece if you need guidance, and carefully stitch from one side of the ear to the other using a coordinating thread. Now take your polyfill and start stuffing the bear until it is full and the weight you want it to be. This is where you'll want to add more than you think you need to really define the shape. Use a chopstick as needed to stuff the teddy bear head with polyfill. Next, you'll want to thread a needle with coordinating thread that is knotted at the end. Start at the front seam and create a gather stitch around the neck of the bear. To do this, insert the needle and thread into the fabric, pulling it through a 1/2 inch away from where you originally started. Now continue this around the head and pull tightly to create this gather stitch and knot the thread at the end to keep it in place for now. Set the head to the side and grab the top square of fabric that will be connected to the head of the bear. Fold this in fourths and cut a small hole by cutting the very tip of the edge of the folded fabric. Using a machine, or you can do this by hand stitching, stitch a stay stitch around the hole to prevent stretching. Now grab the head of the teddy bear and fold the excess fabric of the teddy head and insert it into the small hole. You may need to work to squeeze all the fabric through the small hole. Using a needle and thread, grab one section of the Lovey fabric and one small section of the teddy head and sew around the head twice to make sure it is secure. If needed, remove the gather stitches on the teddy bear if they are showing by carefully clipping the threads. Trim the excess fabric from the teddy head. Now right sides facing, pin the Lovey top and bottom squares together and pin this in place. Make sure the head is not in the way of the 2 layers of fabric. Now this may be where you want to add a piece of tissue paper to make it a crinkle toy. Sew around the perimeter of the square with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Keep a 2-inch opening on the back side so that you can turn everything right side out. Clip the corners after sewing and turn their Lovey right side out and iron well. Now you're going to sew the opening shut using a needle and thread in a coordinating thread color. To do this, I make sure I knot the end of the thread, insert it from underneath the fabric, and then I'm going to take it through the top of the Lovey and then over through to the bottom, getting a little bit of fabric at a time, kind of going in like a snake pattern from one side of the Lovey fabric to the other, picking up a little bit of fabric each time I'm going across, and this is going to sew up that little section that was previously opened. Now to finish off everything, you're going to do a top stitch around the perimeter of the Lovey fabric. I like to do 1/2 inch seam allowance here for fleece or fur Loveys, and if I'm using linen, like this bluish green color that I'm using, I like to do 1/8 inch. I think it looks really nice to do it right alongside the edge. It just looks really clean. So now you're going to give it a good iron. Now you're going to use embroidery floss to embroider the eyes and the nose on the Lovey. And to do this, you're going to tie the end of the embroidery floss and insert it into where the eye markings are. I like to eyeball where I'm going to add the eyes, and so I put pins in place, and this will gauge where I want to keep the eyes, and then I keep the pin there until I'm going to add the thread. So I insert the thread through where I want the eyeball to be and carefully sew back and forth, creating an oval shape. And I do this for the other side, and then add a triangle shaped nose on the nose of the teddy bear. I think this Lovey would look so great with name embroidered on it. It is such a easy gift to personalize and give to someone that is expecting a little one. If you want to make a teddy bear as well, you can click this next video.